Okay. Welcome everyone to the SI2 School Improvement Institute live briefing for steering team members and the Q&A. My name is Sue Reynolds and I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. So you may notice that this recording is in a different setting. I'm not in my office. I'm actually on vacation this week. We are driving down to Central Florida and didn't quite make our destination, so we stopped at the side of the road and we're at a Love's truck stop, and luckily I was able to get really good internet access, and so we can do the webinar from here. You will probably see trucks going by in the background, but maybe it'll make the webinar a little bit more interesting. So, okay, well, let's head on to the next slide, and we'll just kind of work through these. Okay, as I was saying a little earlier, don't forget you can minimize your control panel by clicking that little orange rectangle, and then if you click it again, it will maximize your control panel. And you can mute the microphone on your telephone or on your computer by just clicking that icon that has the microphone in it. If it's green, your mic is open and we can hear everything that's going on in the background. And if it's gray, then you're muted and we can't hear background noise. So, okay, a couple of assumptions on this video. We are assuming that you've already watched the council video and you kind of have a sense of what's on there. Basically, in the council video, we introduced interventions. We asked your council members to discuss each of your current interventions, to give a thumbs up for them or a thumbs down. In terms of whether or not they thought you should continue that intervention into next school year. And then we also gave them a chance to make comments if they wanted to continue the intervention, if they had suggestions about it. The council members could also suggest new interventions for your root causes. And if you have new root causes, you'll need to suggest some new interventions, look at new interventions. We gave the council all the links to all the different databases that we have in terms of places where you can research and explore interventions. And I was kind of amazed. We now have over 12,000 interventions in our SI2 database. So over the many, many years of doing this, we've collected a lot of interventions. So if you want to do an intervention for attendance, you could probably go into those 12,000 interventions and just search them for attendance, and lots of ideas will pop up. So just please don't forget that you have that resource. I think it's a really powerful resource. We're also assuming that you have watched the steering team video. That video talked about how to facilitate this month's discussions. It gave some pretty strong suggestions on how to strengthen your SIP, and it also gave you instructions for entering the interventions online. And we just kind of walked through each of the steps of that. This month's steering team video was a little bit longer than normal. I think it was just under an hour. But we really wanted to talk with you about strengthening your school improvement plan, and about how at this point we can look at your SMART goals and your root causes and your planned interventions and really just ask some good questions about whether or not everything makes sense. So we do strongly encourage you to watch that entire video to make sure that you're benefiting from all of the tips that we're giving you about how to strengthen your school improvement plan. And then our third assumption is that you're participating in today's briefing for some last minute tips, and we do have some things that have just evolved in the last day and even this morning. And then also to have a chance to ask questions or make comments or whatever. So, okay. So first of all, we have been mentioning the Association of School Principals for the last couple of months, and they have done such a nice job of representing schools in terms of what's required of schools with school improvement planning. You know that that's something that we have advocated for on your behalf for years and years, but the Principals Association has really done a nice job with that. And so We've had a couple of meetings with them to talk about how we might work together and support each other. One of the things we wanted to make you realize is that I was pleased, and I think they were too, that 85% of our SI2 principals are already members of the Principals Association. If not, it's something that we'd really encourage you to consider. We just think that that's, it's nice to have an association representing your school improvement planning needs in addition to us. So something to think about. The cost is just $145 for new principals. And then one other thing that we thought was really cool is we've talked with the Principals Association about, how can we help other principals learn about SI2? And of course, they're not going to give ASA preferential treatment, but they did offer, like they will to other organizations, I'm sure as well, they offered to put an article in SI2 about SI2 or somehow touching upon SI2 in the March issue of their publication. So Steve Morris, who's in on this call, has volunteered to write an article as a principal and as a superintendent. He's going to write an article about school improvement, and we'll touch upon SI2 that will appear in the March issue of Indianagram. So we're just really appreciative of Steve for doing that for us. And as you know, we have always viewed you, our schools, and our organization as kind of a team, and it's just nice to have you guys supporting us that way too. And I know other principals have stood up for us and advocated for us in different situations, and we just really appreciated that. So just wanted to mention briefly IASP. So, okay, so getting to interventions. I'm going to do some summary work and then again talk about some things that I think will really strengthen your school improvement plan. First of all, why do you have interventions? There's two reasons. The first reason is to nail the root causes. Remember, the root causes are the things that are interfering with learning, and they're the things that you decided based on your data for your school and your community. These are the things locally that you and your council decided are interfering with learning. So your interventions are going to nail those things. We want to make those root causes go away. Our belief is that if you can get those key root causes to go away, then you're very likely to reach your SMART goals. So we got to nail those root causes, and you do that through your interventions. That's the most important reason. I put the 5 checks on there, just this, that's what we think is so important. Then the secondary reason for your root causes is to satisfy external expectations. People outside of your building who want you to implement different things. So if you're a Title I school, you have a set of expectations. If you're a priority focus or targeted focus school, you have another set of expectations. If you're meeting Indiana rules and regs, there's all kinds of expectations for you. So a secondary reason to have interventions in your building is to meet everybody else's expectations. To us, that's not as important as the first reason, because the people outside of your building haven't looked at your individual data. They've not looked at your individual school, your individual community. They have looked at state level data or national data to say, for most schools, these are the root causes, these are the things getting in the way, so we want schools to implement these interventions, but they don't know your individual school. That's why we think doing interventions to address your locally identified root causes is so much more important, will have so much higher impact than the interventions that you're putting in place to meet others' expectations. That said, we know that as a school accepting Title I funding or an Indiana school, you do have to meet these external expectations. So, we realize that's the case. We did update our external expectation list. It's in the manual for interventions. In the interventions section, it's document 7.6. And we did update that this year, so you can take a look at that and you can see which external expectations exist for your school. So, okay. So, as you're looking at, and I can't emphasize this enough, and our staff is really going to look at this too, so that we can provide some strong guidance for you, and we'd like you to look at it as well. We want to really look at having a strong school improvement plan. And this is the first time that we've been able to look at your SMART goals, your root causes, and your interventions all together. And we're wanting to just see, does this plan make sense? If we do this plan well, is our achievement going to go up? So I'll show you one of the summary reports in a minute, but here's what we're looking at. As we look at the first summary of your whole school improvement plan, we're wanting to know, are your goals targeted and are they specific, your SMART goals? For example, maybe you had a reading goal that you were going to improve reading for grades 3, 4, 5, and 6. Well, that SMART goal is pretty broad. And really, if you had a SMART goal that included all of those grades, 3, 4, 5, and 6, theoretically, you could improve reading at grade 3, but not improve reading at grade 5. Theoretically, you could have different root causes for grade 3 than grade 5. So for the final time, as we're looking at all this stuff, our staff, and we hope you too, will really take a look at your SMART goals once again. And, in the perspective now of having your root causes defined and starting to look at your interventions, we want you to think, are those SMART goals specific enough? Are they targeted enough? Do I need to, to make them more specific or more fine-tuned so that I could tell exactly what's improving and what's not improving? So I know Tina is going to this month, when we take our final look at the SMART goals, root causes, and interventions, we're really going to revisit those SMART goals. Don't be surprised if Tina gives you a call and says, a couple of months ago those SMART goals looked fine, but now as I see your root causes and your interventions, I'm thinking maybe you need some more you need to target more your SMART goals, make them a little bit narrower. So we may give you a call and ask you to kind of rethink that part after we've looked at your root causes and interventions together. Then on your root causes, the question is, if your root causes that you've linked to that SMART goal, if those root causes go away, are you likely to reach your SMART goals? If the answer is no, then that means that your root causes aren't targeted enough, you don't have enough root causes impacted, the root causes are just kind of feel-good root causes, they're not really looking at what's happening in the classroom. So again, when you look at those root causes and in aligned with your SMART goals, if they're not, if you can't say, yeah, we're going to reach our SMART goals if those root causes go away, then you've got a problem and we'd like you to revisit that. And then finally, as you're developing your interventions this month, the question is, if the interventions that are aligned with each of your SMART goals are fully implemented and they're implemented with integrity, you're not just going through the motions, you're not just checking a box off that the interventions have been completed, but you're really hitting those interventions. If you hit those interventions, will the root causes disappear? Will those things that are getting in the way no longer exist? So, it's all kind of like a pyramid. We put in the interventions that addresses the root causes. We hit the root causes, and then we make the root causes go away, and then the SMART goals are likely to be realized. So Tina's going to be looking at, we met several times this week with our entire staff. We've kind of spot checked some schools, and we're really going to look at this summary report heavily, and then we hope do some really significant and meaningful coaching and mentoring to help you look at the strength of your school improvement plan. So let's take a look at what this report looks like. When you can print out, after you've put your interventions in, you'll be able to get out the SIP summary report. It's all in chart form. There's no narrative with this, so let's just look at how we would look at the summary report. So this is just a part of the summary report, and you can see that this is the summary for the SMART goal that's listed at the top. So the way you would read this is a SMART goal for 7th grade, and it's not a subset. It's not just like male 7th graders or Hispanic 7th graders. It's 7th grade and all students. So our student group is all students in 7th grade, and what do we want them to do? We want them to master ratios, and where are they going to do that? What's the indicator? What's the assessment? Is on I-STEP. So that's what we want to do. So to check for the strength of your plan, we're going to then go and look at the root causes. If I do these things, are students likely to master ratio standards on I-STEP? So ratios aren't being taught in 7th grade. Well, that's a big one. You know, to reach that SMART goal, I'm going to have to teach it. So that looks like a pretty good root cause. Students needing extra help for ratios aren't getting it. You know, that is good. Lack of extra help for math outside of the classroom. You know, these are all, I think, pretty good root causes that if I were to address these, you know, would students start mastering ratios on I-STEP? I'd probably make a, you know, a dent in that. And then you're thinking, is there anything else I could be doing? Do I have the time and the energy to be doing anything else? And maybe the light bulb goes off, man, I don't have any way for teachers to be able to identify students who aren't mastering ratios before I get to I-STEP. So maybe you're thinking, man, maybe I better put another root cause in there. You know, something about doing a frequent classroom assessment so that I can identify the students who need help on ratios, and then I can provide that extra help specifically for them. So that's the kind of analysis that we want you to do. That's what Tina will be doing. You know, Tina's going to be saying, okay, if the school addresses these root causes, is it likely that they're going to hit this SMART goal? Okay, so that's step one of how to read this report. Step two is then to think, okay, do I have the right interventions, which are listed down the left? Do I have the right interventions that if I did these well, that I would be able to make this root cause go away? So I've got a 7th grade ratios unit, and I've got a curriculum update. If I do those two, is that likely to make the fact that I'm not teaching ratios in 7th grade math go away? Well, yeah. So that makes sense to me. And again, you're thinking, is there something else I should be doing? Is there another intervention I could put in place? Or do I need to make one of these interventions stronger? So the next one, students needing extra help for ratios. 7th grade ratios unit, if I were to open this, I should be able to find something about extra help. Math club, I'm thinking math club isn't for all kids. It's only for kids that can stay after school. So, you know, that really isn't providing extra help for all kids that need this extra help. The only thing that I have is the 7th grade ratios unit. I better go back and check to see how strong is the extra help that's in that unit. How strong is that? So, you know, then I'm looking at the next one. So, you know, we're kind of seeing when I look at the interventions, will those interventions make these root causes go away? And if the answer is yes, then, you know, we've got a strong plan. If the answer is I'm not sure, I don't know, then we need to go back to the interventions and look at strengthening them. Notice here that there are 2 interventions that we haven't clicked off at all as having anything to do with this SMART goal. If there were interventions that were about language arts, you know, that they're also not going to address this SMART goal and these root causes. But I do want to point out that we've, in this last column, there are external expectations, just to remind you that this is an intervention that you have planned, but the only reason that you're doing it is to meet an external expectation. Doesn't have, you know, wasn't put in there because of your local data. Okay, let me just jump in here, and if anybody has any questions, could you just unmute yourself and just ask, and we'll see if anybody has questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands up. Okay, assuming we're good, I'm going to go on. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to just highlight what's new. We've made some changes mainly in rubrics to align with changes in the external rules and regs, and in a couple places to just incorporate things that have been around for a while. So in the interventions rubric, you're going to see 3 new rubric items. One is that technology interventions are included. The Department of Education has all schools do a technology plan. We are assuming that there are technology interventions in your technology plan, and so that all of your interventions are in one place, we're asking you to drop those technology interventions into your school improvement plan. Same thing with the DOE asked you to do a plan for high ability. In Indiana code, you have to have a plan for your high ability students. We're assuming that there are interventions in there. And again, let's just drop those into your school improvement plan so that all of your interventions are in one place. And then finally, DOE asks elementary schools to have a reading plan. We've always had that in our work, but we're just moving it to a different section. In the past, our elementary schools have put in a SMART goal for reading, and there was a SMART goal for grades K through 2, and then another SMART goal for grades 3 through 6. Because that's an external expectation, we're going to take it out of the SMART goals section. We really want your SMART goals to be pure, that they are SMART goals that you've come up with, or they are truly SMART goals that have been dictated by DOE. In the DOE reading plan, it just talks about interventions, so we're going to move that to the intervention section. So, okay, so you'll see this, and let's just drop all of your interventions in one place. I think that will also give you a better sense of how much your faculty is doing and how much time and energy they may have to do new things. So, okay. Then, so this is just a clarification on number 2 on the SMART goal rubric. This is only for focused targeted schools. We've always had a rubric item that said that there's a SMART goal for each AMA group, each student group that did not meet AMO, but we wanted to just clarify it that it's AMO on the most recent report from DOE. We know that the information that you have from DOE right now is a year out. You don't have the new AMO reports. So as always, we're just using the most recent data we can put our hands on, which for you is the data that's over a year old. So as soon as DOE releases the new AMO information, then we'll quick look and update if we have to, but we're just going to use the data that we have that's available. So, okay, then the priority and focus schools, this is where the biggest changes are. Just a review, remember that DOE has turnaround principles and turnaround indicators, and actually we ask all SI2 schools to do a self-study on these just because we think they're pretty good to look at. Most of our schools are already doing all these indicators, but we just think it's just a good thing for all schools to look at is the turnaround principles. So in terms of the requirements, and this is again nothing new, this is review, priority schools must address all 8 principles, and you must address each indicator for each of the 8 principles in your student achievement plan, which in SI2 we're incorporating into your school improvement plan as well. So nothing new. When you just submitted your SAP, your Student Achievement Plan, to DOE, you had to show how you were addressing all those indicators. Focus schools, nothing new here. You must address the principles that are weak. So you don't have to do all 8. You can do just 1, but you're asked to look at your data, and we would suggest you look at your self-study, your SI2 self-study. Find the principles that you're the weakest on, and then focus on them. And again, whatever principles you're focusing on, then you would hit all the indicators. Try to hit all the indicators for that principle. So okay, one other little comment here: the priority schools. When you start to look at all those indicators, there are a lot of indicators. But at first I thought, oh my gosh, the schools are going to be overwhelmed. But on the other hand, if you are a priority school, that means that you have not had, high achievement for a number of years. And you probably do need to turn around all aspects of your school. And so it probably makes sense that you're being asked to look at all 8 of those indicators and to really, I like to think of it as a priority school is kind of starting from scratch. You're kind of like redesigning your whole school. So yeah, we think that that's really important that priority schools do hit all 8 principles. So okay, so here's what's new. In the intervention rubric, We now are asking that interventions be included for all indicators associated with your targeted principles. So for priority school, you're going to have interventions for all indicators for all 8 principles. If you're a focus school, it'll just be for the principles that you're targeting. So, but we do need interventions for all of the indicators. That will make sure that way you'll make sure that you're aligned with the expectations in the SAP. So in the crosswalk, this is new for all schools, not just the focus and priority schools. We changed the turnaround principles crosswalk that you all do so that it includes an indicator crosswalk. You're not going to have to do any extra work. You already did that as part of your self-study. We're just going to spit out a new report so that you could determine which of the indicators you're addressing and which you're not addressing. It's kind of a clean-looking, easy snapshot report. Then, next new one is on the process page. We would really like for our SI2 schools to coordinate and communicate with their DOE outreach coordinator. We think that that relationship is really important, especially for our priority schools, but also for the focus schools. So we added a step on the process page. It only appears for focus and priority schools, and where we ask you to seek input regarding your interventions from your DOE outreach coordinator. And when you click on that, there's a bunch of tools. We're envisioning that you're going to send an email to your outreach coordinator and say, you know, I'm about to finalize my interventions for 2016-17. Would you take a look at my interventions and, you know, just give me any input that you have? Or that you're calling them on the phone and basically saying the same thing. Okay, then so on the in the last part, when you put in an intervention, this is leading up to next month's activities. The system asks you, do you want to evaluate these interventions? Do you need to find funding for these interventions? Do you need to get resources for these interventions? Do you need professional development for the interventions? So for any intervention that's aligned with a turnaround principle, we need to make sure that that is aligned with that you're going to do an evaluation for those interventions. That's so again, so that we can drop that into the SAP report for you. So that will automatically be checked, evaluation. When you link an intervention to a turnaround principle, it'll automatically check evaluation. And then the other rubric item is that we have to have also other action steps for implementing the interventions that are aligned with turnaround principles. That was kind of a lot of information at once. You will have this slide that you can come back and look at it. We will post this this webinar. Also call Tina, and she'd be happy to help. So okay, so a couple other little tips, focus and priority schools. First of all, this is really important. You know how in ASA we try to figure out where the train is going, and then we want to get you there before the train arrives. So we're assuming that where the train is going is that in February or March next year, if not before, DOE is going to ask again all focus and priority schools to submit a student achievement plan in addition to the school improvement plan. And we're just going to prepare for that, assuming that it's happened. It's happened in the last 2 years, and both of the last 2 years schools haven't had a lot of notice that this was happening. So we're just going to assume that it's happening again, and we're going to have you ready for it to happen. Then we're also assuming that DOE's Student Achievement Plan template will be the same or similar to the template that was due this year. So to make this all easy for you, instead of having to do the crosswalk where you're cutting and pasting into the SAP, we now feel comfortable with creating an automated report for you, since the DOE form hasn't changed for a couple of years, and you know, we just think that this is the time to do that. So you'll be able to download an SAP PDF at the same time that you download the school improvement plan PDF. So it'll look like this. I'm sorry. This is the SAP template. This is a screenshot from DOE's template. What we give you will look exactly like this. I did want to show you that this is where it says that strategies or interventions must be included for all of those indicators. Most of the turnaround principles don't have 15, most of them have 3 or 4, but we're going to make sure that you've met all of those indicators. So this is what it will look like. You know, at the end of your work, when you get the balloons, then that turns on the PDF. So you'll be able to go up to step 1 and click a button and get the PDF of your school improvement plan, so you can upload that for PL 221 purposes. And then if you're a focus or priority school, you'll also be able to download an SAP, a Student Achievement Plan, so that you can then email that to your DOE outreach coordinator. So that should save you, by our estimate, that will save you about 8 hours of time. It'll all be in there. We'll just put it into a different report and you'll spit out your SAP. So, okay, that will be ready to go for your 16-17 plan. So this May, when you get balloons this May, you'll have that report that you can download, and it'll be all ready when DOE asks for it. You know, even if they don't ask for it till next March again, you'll be able to just, you know, have it and upload it. It'll be all ready to go. So, okay. I think that's it for everything that I have, and we'll take questions. Just remember that Tina is here to help you. And also remember that we're looking at your whole plan now. So while we're specifically looking at interventions this month, we're also going to look at everything connected. So we'll be looking again at your root causes, again at your SMART goals. So Tina may call with and give you suggestions on your interventions, but she may say, you know, let's go revisit your SMART goals. And I really think you might want to consider making those more specific. So, you know, we may backtrack a little bit after we see everything together. Our goal this month is to make your school improvement plan really strong. We know the stronger we can get your plan, the more likely it is that your achievement's going to go up. So we're going to really dig in and do the best guidance that we can. And we hope that you're really digging in and thinking through these things as well. So, okay, I think that's it that I have. I hope you've been entertained by the trucks driving through in the background. Luckily, nobody has come up to the window to tell me to move our little truck and trailer. So, looking for questions. Unmute yourselves, jump in. Not seeing any hands up. Tina, let me give you a chance to jump in here. Anything to add that maybe I was confusing on, or anything from your perspective?
No, I didn't hear anything. I have about 1 million Post-it notes here. I'm sure I'm like everybody else. It's that time of year. The main thing that I would suggest is that for any schools that haven't done their SIP uses, I think most everyone has, but that was so easy to overlook this year because we were waiting on data. So if you would just go back in and make sure, especially if you have AMOs, make sure you update those because it does have an effect. And also then just, you know, as you're going through the process, like Sue said, it never hurts to just keep looping and going back through. And as you look at root causes, go back and look at your SMART goals, and then, you know, go to the next step and go back and look again. And I really like razor sharp accuracy on these because I know that will save you a ton of time in the long run on your interventions. So I'll be calling if I see anything that I think it definitely will be to your benefit. And I hope everybody has a great big Post-it note on their desk with 812-349-4142, and call me anytime.
Yeah, one other thing, that we're trying to make some changes in the type of services that Tina is providing for you. And I would hope that y'all are remembering that Tina wasn't a principal. She was the principal at the school, the SI2 school, that had the biggest gains in achievement for the most consecutive years. She was a dynamite principal. We are so lucky to have her. And I want to emphasize, you know, I know you're using Tina a lot to review your work, and then she makes comments and she says that you meet criteria or you don't meet criteria. But it's also okay, very okay, to just call up and brainstorm with Tina. So to pick up the phone and say, Tina, can I schedule a half an hour to talk with you? I really want to look at our root causes and get your thoughts on, are we going to drive our SMART goals with these root causes, or whatever. So you know especially when we have that summary plan, feel free to just call Tina up and talk to her then, or schedule an appointment or whatever. This is one of the services that we provide for you when when you have the full services from ASA for SI2. And we really think that we're so lucky to have her, and you're so lucky to have her, just to be able to brainstorm with. Especially, if you're in a small district and you're like one of two principals and you just want somebody on the outside to, to help you think through things. That's what Tina is there for. So please, please do call her. There's one other thing, Tina, there. Oh, the other thing I want to talk with you about just real quickly in terms of Tina's work is Tina, I don't know, this is probably invisible. We consult a lot about your work. So Tina will call, and sometimes we pull Amy Drake in, who's been doing school improvement for a million years as well. And we'll dig into one of your school improvement plans, and the three of us will say, man, is that really going to work? Is that going to, or is it likely that SMART goal is going to be realized if that's all they're doing? And or sometime we may say, man, look at all of these interventions. Are they going to just overwhelm themselves because they're trying to do too many things at once? So we often in our office do conference calls where we are specifically looking at one of the schools that maybe we have concerns about, or that we're not really sure if your plan is going to get you where you want to go. So I didn't know if you realized that that was happening on our end, but we do that quite a lot. So okay, any other questions? Last chance. Okay, well, we are 1 hour from our destination in sunny Florida, so we're going to get back on the road and spend the next week working and vacationing from Florida. So feel free to give us a call, and if I'm not at the beach, we can talk. And of course, Tina's available all the time. And once again, thanks to Steve Morris for putting together the article for the principal's publication. I just think that that's awesome. So thanks everybody, and have a great week.